Well, hello friends. I'm here right now with a master drummer, Mr. Stewart Copeland. How are you, Stewart?
I'm excellent. I just had a smoking rehearsal with the big band here. The whole orchestra packing in here, and we've had a couple runs through it now, and they have got it. It's going to be huge.
Hands down it will be huge. But what will be huge? Tell me of the name of this amazing show.
This show is called Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ, which is actually the show itself has a slightly different name, but the main event is that film. And the film was made in 1925, and the name Ben-Hur takes most people to the Charlton Heston film, which is a rather more modest production made in 1959, where they didn't quite have the resources that they had. It's kind of more of an art movie, Ben-Hur, the Charlton Heston one, compared to the 1925 version, which had 125,000 extras. They have ships, big ships, crashing into each other in flames. The chariot race is illegal. They can't do that anymore. This original film, when they didn't have CGI, and they actually had to do it in front of the camera, and they had the resources to put this spectacle, and they had the kind of, in those days they had the expertise as well. Nowadays a director just has a blue screen and 2 actors to work with, and he'll build everything later. But it's sort of like the difference between seeing a band on stage and seeing a band on TV. You know, on TV the camera can move around, you get more angles, you get close-ups, you get kind of better quality look at the band, but it isn't as exciting as just seeing the band there. And this film, you know, competing with something like a, you know, a big CGI film, you're not as impressed when you see planets exploding and a spaceship, you know, because you expect that. But when you're looking at one of these ancient films and you see, and those are real people really doing that, there is an extra kind of a thrill. And they really are doing that, and they're really doing some outrageous things, and there are a lot of them doing outrageous things.
Right, and this is taken from the original film, right? This is what we're seeing on the screen is not just some DVD of Ben-Hur, Tale of the Christ.
The film has been available kind of on DVD. The last time it was telecine was 2 video. So there is on like the 6th or 7th disc of the Charlton Heston DVD, they've included as an extra the 1925 version. When I made this one here, it took 3 years for, you know, Derek Power and I to work our way through Warner Brothers to get the rights to do this. And finally, we figured out which department it is and everything. And when we got to the right department, they leapt onto this very enthusiastically.
Sure.
And they dug out this 80-year-old print, and it took them 10 days to defrost it.
Wow.
And so we get this thing and we put it on the deck and telecine it to a much, much higher standard than was possible for video. And the last time, by the way, the last time it's been out of the cans was in the 60s, you know, like 30, 40 years ago. And so another part of this mission, as well as writing 340 pages of orchestral score for the music, was curating the images as well. When I got these images telecined, it's very ancient film, scratches, and what they do is after films run, they gather all the prints that are out there and they get the best reels, the least scratch each reel, and they kind of join them together. So this thing is, you know, the original ancient venerable celluloid, which is 80 years old, has been through some stuff. And so cutting it from 2 hours and 20 minutes down to a sensible 90-minute concert, I was curating, and every single shot of the movie, I figured out how to get it horizontal for one thing, the frame around the edge, which was different in every shot depending on what camera they were using that day. The speed of the film varies between 18 and 22 frames a second, depending on who was cranking that day.
Right.
And none of that, even if it was 22 or 18, that doesn't exist anymore. There are no machines that play at 22 frames a second. The slowest you can get is 24. So we have all these issues to deal with, and I'm having to curate these images, and the dust and scratches. Suddenly there's a splotch. There are scenes in the movie where suddenly there's a splotch, and I look at it, and it is an insect. 6 legs, 2 wings, 4 wings, whatever, splat.
So it's very old.
Thing. And of course, I've got a digital, so I can't scrape it off. But what I do is I get the next frame, lay it on top of this frame, and then crop that in. So it's just that bit of sky from the next frame. I put that bit of sky on this frame here, and no more fly. There were places where, in one place, they had a huge shot of entering the arena behind the chariots. And they've got thousands, hundreds of thousands of extras in the stands. They've got all the chariots lined up. They got this, it's a big, big shot. They didn't get a lot of takes on that shot. And as it's coming out, there's one place like that. The camera truck hit a bump, whatever. And I can just imagine 80 years ago, the director, Fred Niblo, tearing, "God, isn't there another take of that? Okay, get it all back, let's get..."
Wow.
But in my studio, I'm able to, as the shot goes like this, I'm able to take that shot, move it down here, take that shot, move it back up there. And so it's the focus drifts for a second there. This is over about 6 or 7 frames. If it was 1 frame, you wouldn't see it. But this, I had to
very meticulous,
curate every frame of this place like that. And I think Mr. Niblo would be happy that I saved that shot with modern technology. And in that way, I dressed every single shot of the film, because I'd cut the music and written music to the DVD version. When we did the real version, it ran at a slightly different length. Oh my God, nothing fits anymore. So I had to take every single shot and lengthen it or shorten it or do whatever to it. And then there's the coloring. Although it was a black and white film, they would tint certain scenes. They would dip it in magenta or in an amber finish. And so they used whatever technology they had to kind of give more sparkle to their movie. And all I could do was just one color over a scene, so they would do it. So now, 80 years later, I've got to kind of replicate that. And actually, we have better ways of doing it now. So would Mr. Niblo be happy if I just kept the blacks black and that little magenta thing like that? We can now get into every particle of grain and manipulate it, and I can. And so the original version of it is just like purple and white. Well, now I can have the blacks be truly black, and then it goes through purple as it gets to white. And it's just it looks nicer. And I think that Mr. Niblo would be happy. I hope so. I hope so. I've been so deep into this film. I have such an abiding respect, devotion to Mr. Niblo's original vision. Sometimes I go, "Well, what's that, man?" And then I look at it and I see why he did that. And I want to preserve what it was he was trying to do. And I've given him some few, I've taken his movie into the 21st century and applied some cool tricks that I know, because I can tell that he applied every trick that he had. And I've got a couple more that hopefully he would be happy with.
Well, another thing that you did is, you brought a musical score to this silent movie. And I wanted to ask you about that as far as composing music to a movie. I mean, what goes through your head when you're watching this, and how do you know the music that needs to be written for each scene?
20 years before The Mast, as a hired gun film composer, is like the boot camp of composing. That's where you learn the real chops. An artist composer just follows their instincts. I want to write music like this, and that music over there is irrelevant, so you never learn those chops. Well, the film composer has a client who wants that, and he wants that, and he wants this over here, and he wants different things that you never would have gone to as an artist, but you have to learn these different things. And one of those things is working with orchestra. But this film, the music for it actually came from a live show, which I had no film. I had to imagine, it says on the page here, Romans come in, kick ass and take names. Give me 30 seconds of that. I've got to imagine 30 seconds worth of Romans riding in, kicking ass, taking names, and dragging people off.
It fits the percussion, too.
And for instance, the race, they figured that the race, they're doing it live, by the way, in an arena. They fill it with dirt, and they did the whole Ben-Hur live in arenas. We figured each lap takes 24 seconds. Cool, 24 seconds. And in the first lap, it just goes around. The second lap is the first stunt, which happens about 10 seconds in. And then the third lap, there's no stunt. And the fourth lap is the one where the wheel comes off. And I've got, they've worked out with the stuntmen what all these and we figure it's going to be a 10, however many laps. And it's about 24 seconds a lap. And it's the first lap, and I put a place where the wheel comes off. And then the third lap, I do a thing where something else happens, Well, guess what? We get into the arena for rehearsals. I've written the music. I've recorded the orchestra. And it takes 17 seconds to do a lap. Obviously, we can't, get them to go any faster. It takes 17 seconds. So I've got to go back and,
cut up your music
cut
to
up the
17
music
seconds.
and make it. And by the way, the guy doing the stunt, I gave him a nice cue. When you hear the ding, that's when you pull the lever and your wheel comes up. Yeah, right. Sure. He's got a life-threatening stunt to perform and he's listening to the music? No.
Right.
So I had to imagine it, and then I had to write it, and then they had to build the show with kind of what I did, but I had to rewrite things, slow things down. So when the idea came of doing concert with this music, once again, Derek Power suggested, why don't you have a look at that old movie? I had thought that I was just going to have a couple of pictures of chariots or something Ben-Hur-ish up on the thing.
Sure.
But Derek says, well, check this out. And I look at this movie and wow. So I start realizing that I've got the love theme. I've got the Jesus theme. I've got the jealousy. I've got the chariot race. I got the pirate race. As I'm watching every scene, I'm hearing my music just going perfect with it.
Right.
And so I started to merge the two and cut it up together. And as I began to work with the movie, I began to drink the Kool-Aid and to fall into this passion for the movie itself.
Sure.
And the movie started out as just a couple of pictures of chariots, and now it's all about the movie.
Right.
Now this is a movie with a big orchestra and me banging on the drums, but it's all one thing, which is the story of Ben-Hur, a tale of the Christ.
So what made you decide to choose a movie, Ben-Hur, the Tale of the Christ? I mean, was it from a religious aspect at all? Did that have anything to do with
music.
it? Right.
I had already written the music, and the idea of looking at the movie, I started to watch the movie, and there's a different aspect of the film. The Ben-Hur of Charlton Heston was simply called Ben-Hur.
Right.
This one is called, as the book by General Lew Wallace, is called Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ.
Did you like that religious angle?
Well, I'm not particularly religious myself. I'm a libertine, a West Coastist, a lefty. But even my crocodile libertine heart can feel the passion of these religious scenes. And obviously, Lew Wallace, when he wrote the book is very allegorical. It has these diversions which go on to the spiritual stuff, all based on the kind of parallel stories of Judah Ben-Hur and Jesus Christ, the Messiah. And they both go through their journeys. And when push comes to shove, and the Christ is carrying his cross to Calvary, and meanwhile the whole story of Ben-Hur is that he's won the race and he's amassed this fortune and he's raised these armies and he's come and he arrives. It's gonna be fine. I've come to save you, Lord. Get that. And I've got these armies that are gonna kick out the Romans. The time has come and we're here for you. And the word comes down. I came to save lives, not to destroy them. And he tells Ben-Hur to just kneel and pray, which seems counterintuitive. But as General Wallace makes his point, the last sentence of the book is that Christianity issued to supersede the Caesars. And that it may look like he's going to his death. It looks like a disaster. The Messiah, the King, the leader, the Savior, who's going to save the Jewish people from the Roman Empire. There he is being led to his death. He's up on the cross. He's dying. It may seem like a terrible thing, and that's sort of what the people of the day saw. But General Wallace reminds us that it may have looked bad on that day, but ultimately, 2,000 years later, look where we're at. Jesus is still here, and the empires are long gone.
Right. Is composing this work your life's purpose? I mean, do you feel like this was your calling to do this?
This movie does sort of bring together a lot of my hobbies, a lot of my history, a lot of my skills. I don't think I've ever worked on anything that had as many of the different things that I do. The editing, the composition, the orchestration, the blasting away on my drums even.
Oh yeah.
Even the fact that it's set in the Orient, the Levantine, I grew up there, that's the music I grew up with.
Yeah.
I've never been on a mission that had so many of my particular tricks.
How appropriate that you are originally from Virginia. You're from Alexandria.
Here we are.
And here our Virginia Arts Festival.
Come back to Virginia.
It's beautiful. We're so
Folks
happy.
here at the festival just had to reel this old boy home.
Oh yeah, all the way from all over the world, from the Middle East to California.
Yeah.
So, well, it's just wonderful to have you here, and probably this is just some of the sickest drumming that I've ever heard. You know, particularly in any type of score, any type of movie or anything like that.
Well, that's because the composer gets to bang on his own drum.
Yeah.
And, there's no singer staying on. Hey, just keep a backbeat.
Yeah.
There's no backbeat in the whole piece. There's not a single rock and roll rhythm because it's all Middle Eastern and because I refuse to play a backbeat.
Oh man, I saw you perform in New York a few years ago, and your drum solo was just out of this world. I mean, you were all over the cymbals
Oh,
and
you
all
mean
over
the
the
Letterman drum solo
I'm not sure if it was David Letterman or not.
on TV?
No, I saw you. You were there. It was I think Giant Stadium, so maybe it was New Jersey.
I don't. Well, if you mean
It was
the
a few
fact
years
that
ago.
I was playing a drum solo, but there's two other guys still playing, and one of them's even singing, but I'm playing a drum solo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you mean. Sure.
Oh man, I know. Fortunately, you know, I saw you just go off on that crazy drum set of yours, and I saw it again today live in person. It's a huge honor to speak with you and for you to speak with me about Ben-Hur, and I'm just very, very excited. The Ben-Hur is going to be performed tomorrow. That's April 19th at Norfolk at Chrysler Hall as part of our Virginia Arts Festival 2014. So thank you so much, Mr. Copeland.
All right. Thank you.